Hello and welcome to No CB, a Grand Strategy podcast. This is for the week of the 13th of October, 2021. I'm Len, I'm your host. I've been gone for, 3 weeks now?
Yeah,
Something
3
like
weeks,
that.
I think so.
You were lost in the black hole for 3 weeks. It's a new record.
Yeah, I thought I knew the way out of it, and then I just got turned around, and I didn't want to stop and ask for directions.
You can just blame it on DJ.
It's definitely all
his
his
black
fault.
hole.
It's crunch, that's what it is. Crunch culture.
I'm here this week with Rose.
Hey there.
And with Father Loris.
What's up? Hello.
And Lambert should be here a little bit later. He's, I think he was just running a little late.
James Bond.
He's, yep. He's distracted by someone with a license to kill.
That's right.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know. I've never been a fan of Daniel Craig stuff anyway. Give me I quite like Casino Royale. That's pretty good, but the rest.
Because I liked Skyfall too. It wasn't it didn't feel exactly like a Bond movie, but I enjoyed it as like an action.
I can't remember what the last one was called. James Bond of the Whisper of Tree or whatever it was. I forgot what it's called now. It's some nonsense name that didn't make any sense anyway.
What did you say was
your problem with the current James Bond is it just doesn't feel like James Bond.
Hey, I'm here.
Ah, Lambert's here.
Well, there's Lambert. Excellent.
I wondered why Leanna seemed to have developed a split personality there on screen.
Yeah, there we go. And that is our friend Lambert.
Hello, I will put my camera on just a moment.
And we have quite a bit of news to talk about today, but first I do want to address something that has kind of been ongoing for a little while, and I feel like we need to talk about it at some point or another, which is the sort of the staff concerns that are going on at Paradox right now. This was first reported on a few weeks ago when there was some sort of, I think it was the union that actually took a survey, and it wasn't like a comprehensive survey, but there were a lot of people who were reporting less than ideal working conditions, and particularly women at the company, which has been seemingly kind of a theme. Fred Wester has admitted to being involved in an inappropriate incident some point in 2018, and it sounds like their next step is that they're going to be hiring a third-party firm. An independent group to do kind of a full audit that includes all of the employees, not just the people who responded to this initial union survey. Yeah. The reason I think that it is important to bring this up is because if you are a fan of Paradox, if you are a fan of Paradox's games, you should be a fan of, everybody who works at the studio, and you should want them to be in an environment where they have the best and safest and most, welcoming working conditions possible. It's not like these games are made by one or two people. They're made by a very large group of people. And, when concerns like this come up, I think we do need to pay attention to them, and we do need to encourage Paradox to do better as a company.
Even from a sort of, even from a semi-selfish point of view, I guess, a less oppressive, more welcoming environment is a more creative environment,
right?
People feel comfortable and stuff.
Yes, if you don't feel safe, it's the hierarchy of needs. You need food, you need shelter, comfort. But if those needs aren't being met, you cannot be your best.
Yeah.
And so if you don't feel safe, you're not being your most creative, productive self.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you want any evidence,
no matter what you think about what's appropriate or inappropriate between men and women, consensual, non-consensual, whatever you think on that, if the game that you are following, the game that you love, if people making it don't feel safe, you are not getting the game that you really want to play.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you want to put it in a selfish point of view, which I know is what some people need.
Yeah, I mean, if you want evidence of that too, look at the latest WoW patch, right? I mean, I don't think anyone liked that.
Right.
So
Blizzard's its whole own thing.
Yeah, I mean,
but even if all you care about, even if you're like one of those people, it's like, all I care about is the game good. It's like, well, happy people make better games.
Yeah.
I think, more people being listened to leads to better games, as opposed to, a smaller group of people that thinks they know exactly how to do it, and they don't take other people's feedback into account, which is another comment we've heard a couple of times. I think Paradox are, they're making a good step by bringing in a third party to conduct this internal survey, and I hope that goes well. But we should continue to encourage them to take steps to make things better, because
I want to address something here. We have Homecastle talking in chat, and they say people on Reddit reacting to this news. They just don't believe it, and if it's believable, it's not that bad. And if it's that bad, it's just one person's fault.
There are certainly,
I'm sure there's some people who are the ones doing the most of it. Like here in the article, it talks about one man who would put their hand on a woman's lower back or very close hugs, and he would put his face like into your throat, which that's full on creepy. But then you can also get people just giving comments. They don't even think about it. Throwing back to something we talked about like 2 years ago when we did a whole episode addressing this.
Oh, we probably should say too about like the hug thing that happened at the previous company. That's not at Paradox.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was hired despite concerns that people had about that behavior.
So he had history of doing these creepy as fuck things, and got hired by Paradox. So
there's one thing as well that I think needs to be said, and that is it ain't good enough. Like going back to when Fred Wester made his I was a problem person and I did things that were inappropriate, and here's a big list of literally nothing about what I did, in the interest of clarity where I'm not going to be very clear, in the interest of transparency which is completely untransparent. It's not good enough. It's not good enough at all. And respecting the privacy of the victim is important, but that's not what happened. What happened was kind of, I'm going to apologize for something and have absolutely zero repercussions for it, and I'm going to use the victim's privacy as a cover to get away with it, and it's straight up not good enough. And bringing in a third party to do a comprehensive audit, great step. But
and here's
you got to be clear. You got to be honest with yourself instead of like trying to hand wave it away on Twitter with and then sycophants being like, "Oh, this is a great thread, and this is so brave of you to come forward and admit this." It's not fucking brave. It's not good enough. It's fucking disgusting, and you should know better. And fuck the sycophants as well.
I would like to add that even if you said to yourself, "Oh, I would never grab someone somewhere where they wouldn't give consent. I would never make a disparaging comment and say, oh, a woman could never play games. Men are the best at whatever."
They're the best at being creepy, that's for sure.
Even if you know that you would never say something that overt, what would you think? I know I've talked about this before. I got rape threats once on stream. That's actually how I met Lambert. He was not the one doing
I was going to say, that's some weird introduction.
Let's clarify. Lambert was a piece of shit.
Count Christo's chat, and I started having these issues, and Lambert jumped over and offered to help my mod. I had one mod who was doing all they could to continually ban. This person had like 24 disgusting account names they kept popping up with.
Yeah.
But Lambert had a realization after that.
Just a small one.
Just a small.
Yeah.
Basically I didn't before I saw that kind of behavior with my own eyes and saw that people were actually doing that kind of thing, I thought that the issue of harassment online was a bit just all overblown, and it's like it'll happen to like the really big personalities, and people are doing it just to get a rise out of the other person. I didn't think it was that big a deal, but then actually seeing it and having to actually deal with it, it's like, oh yeah, no, there are absolutely massive problems with online gaming culture that it can't just be hand waved away as it's not a big deal.
Yeah, like
it just can't be. Yeah. And unfortunately, it seems like it's from the very fucking top.
Yep.
It's endemic, sadly.
And especially when it's people with fucking power.
Yeah.
And I think that part of why it's disappointing is because Paradox, in a lot of other cases, seems to honestly be better than most other game studios in terms of, they will actually, ban the Nazis on their forums, and they've actually strived for better representation in the games themselves, which I think are great things, which makes me, we all know they can do better. It seems like, it's an issue where women at the company aren't feeling listened to, or like they can speak up. We've heard over and over again that like junior people at the company often don't feel like they're listened to. So I think, if you're a fan of Paradox, be a fan of everybody who works at Paradox, and want them to have a better working environment, because even if it's only because that will get us better games. That's the bare minimum, reason to do it.
If you need a selfish reason.
If you need a selfish reason, exactly. So
I am somewhat.
We would like to add, we're not saying boycott Paradox. We're not saying anything like that. We're saying hold them to a good standard. Hold them to a proper standard. Hold them to the standard that you would hold yourself to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
when all this stuff was happening at Blizzard, like you could look at Paradox and be like, geez, I'm glad I'm not a Blizzard game fan. I'm glad I'm not tied to that company. The amount of baggage and the amount of conflicting feelings fans of Blizzard games must be feeling right now. I'm glad I'm not like that. Glad I didn't tie my fucking YouTube channel to Paradox games. Very glad. Oh wait, shit, I did. Yeah, so I'm pissed off, honestly.
I remember talking to someone a PDX employee at PDXCon 2 years ago now, who at the time was thanking me and another female streamer for being there. Actually, a YouTuber, sorry, not streamer. And telling us that they wanted to find more content creators that were not men because sorry, Lambert. But there's a large plethora of men who play and YouTube and stream the Paradox games. So there are people there that are really trying to combat this, but it has to be across the board. It can't just be a few people, and it has to come top down.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm somewhat optimistic, though, about the independent inquiry. I mean, I think a lot of people have been... I think that's probably the best way of doing it. I mean, I see comments a lot talking about fixing it from the union point of view, and I'm a big trade unionist. I come from South Wales. Like I'd have generations of Welshmen rolling in their graves if I was ever not a trade unionist. But from my experience, especially in like trade unions, I mean, there's a lot of misogyny in trade unions. Like, it's not a good way of, like, that is not a fail-safe solution. So I think, top-down independent inquiry, I think, is a good step, and I'm kind of hoping that would fix a lot of.
I can say that, like, I know Paradox can do better, and I have faith in them to do better. Whereas, like, compared to Blizzard, where it's like, I feel like I just am not going to buy Blizzard games anymore.
I probably feel the same about a lot of companies, right? Like,
like, I don't think they're
trust for that at all, to be honest.
Yeah. So,
because I did trust that they were better, and that trust was clearly misplaced. So I'm evidently not a very good judge of character in that regard. So why would I trust that they could do better now? I got no reason to.
Well, we'll keep an eye on that. We're not going to probably, like, we're not going to have like a watchdog segment every episode or anything like that, but we are going to keep up with what's going on at the company.
Yeah.
Again, because we're fans of their games, we're fans of the people who make their games, whether that's like just a single QA person or a game director, and we want them all to be able to expect a good standard of living in their work life.
Exactly.
I'd like to add that if you catch the articles that come out on this, you're reading them on your own, and they've been translated from Swedish. Make sure that they've been translated properly, and maybe check again in a couple days.
Yeah,
the Eurogamer one has already been edited.
Yeah, the original translation of the Eurogamer article made it sound actually like there was a lot worse stuff happening.
Assaults.
Orders of magnitude worse.
Yeah,
not just harassment, full-on assault.
Yeah. So, anyway, let's go ahead and talk about some video games.
Let's go to a time when a woman ruled, and but women still had to wear dresses and stay in the home. And
I was going to say
video games.
A time of famous egalitarianism, the Victorian period.
There was no
I honestly thought we were going to talk about Total War first. I'm like, are we going to be talking? Is that how we're going to be talking about the leader of Cathay? Okay.
we swapped it because we wanted to get your thoughts on Siege rework, and we weren't sure if you were going to be there at the beginning. So yeah, we'll do Total War at the end. Victoria 3, rank and prestige. Lambert, what's going on this week in the world of Victoria 3?
There is a new way of determining who the top dogs are in the world. In Victoria 2, it was the case that you had a few different stats that would add up to just a score number. Those are prestige, your military score, and your industrialization score. Now, those three have sort of been put into a single unit called prestige, and that is what is going to determine your rank. There's no longer a solid 8 great powers at game start. Instead, it is a value of how close you are to the top. Basically, it's I can find the actual equation that they use. It's like if you have
half of one from the first rank, isn't it? I think
something like that. I wish I could find it easily, but I can't. It's something like you need to have a certain percentage of either the global average or of the rank 1, I think.
I think that's what it was.
By the way, I was very late to the podcast, so I haven't managed to get through all of the things and reread them all. So apologies if I'm a bit all over the place. It's an interesting new way. It's not vastly different, but at the same time, it does feel fresh and it feels a bit more dynamic, which is really nice. There's things like, having a large army gives prestige, which that happened in Victoria 2 as well. That was your military score.
Yeah.
It just wasn't called prestige. Everything wasn't like folded up into just prestige. But also, I think the most interesting one is when it comes to subjects. Subjects contributing prestige to their overlord based on their military and economic might, which is super interesting in the case of Britain. Yeah. Because if we look at the teaser that was put out before this came out, it showed the East India Company is the 8th strongest power in the world by prestige. So adding in their economy, their military, their overall prestigiousness. And then if they're also giving if they're 8th place on their own, and then they're giving a portion of that prestige to their overlord, so Britain, it's making Britain very powerful. And I imagine kind of glass cannon-y if they were to lose.
Well,
India.
I mean, that's true in Vicky too, right? I mean, like, if you ever have a revolution or something and you lose your colonies, suddenly you are really in the shit, basically. As has happened historically.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Yeah, one of the other interesting things is it's not based on number of factories anymore. It's just based on your GDP.
Yeah.
So I guess if you can find a way to make a ton of money without industrializing, you could technically be a great power, I don't know, through a trade or something. I don't know how else you'd do it.
And the old technique, which was basically you went down and discovered the arts, that's still there now, right? So you get a bonus depending on your arts.
Though they might be weakening it. Somebody brought up that 20 prestige from an arts academy was maybe a little bit too much. So that may be going down a bit.
Yeah, you don't want to have like Tajikistan being number one great power because they just produce huge, amazing paintings.
Another big difference is the change away from civilized versus uncivilized. It's now recognized versus unrecognized, which effectively doesn't make a massive amount of difference other than the unrecognized civs or the unrecognized countries. They're not worse at being countries because, the big boys don't agree with them, or they don't believe that they're prestigious enough or whatever. The only penalties you get are to diplomacy, which is way more realistic than, the big boys don't think you are a civilized country, therefore you can't build factories, or you can't build, real infantry, or you can't do these kinds of technologies because Britain thinks you're uncivilized.
That's right.
Whereas now it is just Britain won't talk to you because he doesn't respect you enough.
Yeah,
which makes a lot more sense.
Yes,
definitely,
vastly more sense.
I mean, a third world country that is not a great power. If someone came with money, you could still build a factory.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, look at Japan. I guess it got industrialized before the war with Russia, and didn't be taken seriously. People made like caricatures of these silly Japanese people, like like they're playing at being civilized, but then suddenly, bam, they beat the shit out of Russia in a war, and then oh shit, we have to take these people seriously now.
Yeah.
So it makes sense, right?
And the unrecognized countries can't be classified as great powers, and they get ranked below all of the other powers. A great example of that is Great Qing, which is their new name, I guess. The maximum rank that they can be as an unrecognized power is 80, which basically says there are 79 recognized countries in the world. But the thing is, you can still see their prestige. And Great Qing have a prestige of 1122. When you compare that to France, who is the second ranked great power in the world, they only have 730.
Yep. Also, probably one of the biggest militaries in the world at this time period too. So
the biggest without competition, basically. If the great powers were to recognize Qing, which could happen, say, I don't know, in a victorious Opium War, for example, being able to defeat a great power in war as unrecognized may go a little ways to helping, get recognized. Great Qing would jump immediately to. We don't yet know if it'd be first or second. We have no idea where Britain stands, whether it's higher than 1122 or not. We just know that they're first, and first is any higher than 730.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
I think there's probably going to be a lot of problems for Qing to do that, because it's obviously, although they've taken away the uncivilized thing, there's going to be huge socioeconomic problems in the Qing dynasty. That is going to really hamper your ability to play the game optimally, and you probably have to take a while to reform those. So probably a victory in the Opium War is probably going to be quite hard to do, I would suspect.
I would imagine so.
Yeah, because obviously you probably don't have ironclads, for example, which was a big thing. Basically, your entire fleet got completely destroyed.
I mean, they had a big part of the problem that Qing has as well is it's got a vast coastline. Like it's utterly gargantuan as a coastline.
Yeah.
And so being able to defend it effectively is, I mean, you can't defend all points at once.
Yeah.
So what Qing used to do was they would have various fleets that are completely independent from one another, defending just a portion of the coastline. But these are obviously, if you could put all of their boats together, they could probably be a very competitive fleet on the world stage. But when they're split up into individual like navies, individual fleets that don't communicate with each other, that often have rivalries with one another, that do not cooperate, they're very easy to pick off, and that's what I believe it was the Japanese did very effectively. I don't remember what war it was, but I'm pretty sure the Japanese managed to completely dismantle the Chinese fleet, doing just taking one fleet at a time.
Yep. Believe it.
And yes, they're also notoriously corrupt, as pretty much everything was in the Chinese government at this stage. It had a culture of corruption.
Yeah,
I'd say.
And immense repression too. I think people don't really realize how incredibly repressive it was. But it was kind of a it was doomed to collapse. Basically, one famous thing is they used to have a hairstyle. You had to shave most of your hair and just have a long ponytail, and it was illegal not to have that on pain of death. Right. So when these rebellions used to kick off, all the rebels had to do was give everyone a haircut, and then it had to be a rebellion or else, basically. So basically, you had rogue barbers essentially going around forcing people to be rebels. Well,
they're gonna kill you, so you may as well join us.
I mean, there was doomed either way.
There was also for their generals. I don't know if this is of the period or beforehand, but the culture is still pretty solid throughout. They were very slow for progress, but there was a story of a general who was coming back from a campaign, knew he was going to be late, and the penalty for being late is death.
Yep.
So instead of continuing on being late and being executed, man just started a rebellion instead.
Might as well.
Seems reasonable.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it was very fertile grounds for rebellion, let's say.
Yeah. If somebody's in charge of a bunch of soldiers or ships and they know they're going to get the death penalty, maybe you shouldn't have the death penalty for that specific instance, because why wouldn't they just start a rebellion?
Indeed, I also agree with Caesar. I'm glad you agree. I didn't know you were so pro Caesar.
Hey, this is
Caesar salad is delicious.
I do like Caesar salad. He did give us. He invented, of course, Julius Caesar invented the Caesar salad himself, as we all know.
Of course.
I think it is connected to him in some way. It's based on how he ate his salad or something like that. I don't remember. I don't remember exactly.
I am going to look it up because.
Yeah, I think it's cool that you can have fewer or more than 8 great powers. They did say that there's going to be some sort of check in place so that if you deleted the top 4, it's not going to make it so there's suddenly 30 great powers or something. There can only still be so many.
I like the idea of essentially it could be as little as 2 or even 1 great power, right? It could be 1 global superpower and the rest.
Imagine if they get to the point where there's going to only be 1 great power, they need a new name.
Yeah.
And that is something that is said in the comments as well.
So Caesar salad is based or attributed to a restaurateur named Caesar Sardini, who is an Italian immigrant who operated restaurants in Mexico and the U.S.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not related to Julius Caesar.
He's not the conqueror of Gaul. He was a conqueror of eateries in Mexico.
Yeah.
Okay, so here, the intent is to try and avoid a runaway scenario where there is just 1 great power left, due to the impact it would have on various diplomatic mechanics. I think if we want to simulate a power rising above the great powers, we should think about adding a rank above great power instead. And I would agree with that.
Yeah, and I think they said also it's possible to mod in additional ranks that have their own rules, which is pretty cool.
Do you know what's also pretty cool about Vicky 3 right now?
What's that?
Apparently, Paradox has gotten Vicky 3 its own category on Twitch.
Really?
Wow.
Yes.
I assume that's what we're currently using?
Yes, that is. There's only 208 people following it right now. So if you want in on one of the first people following the Vicky 3 tag before Paradox ever goes live with Vicky 3.
Yeah, that makes me think that they're probably planning to maybe do some dev streams.
That could be interesting.
Yes.
Fingers crossed.
I remember Wiz kind of rose to global prominence with his Stellaris dev streams.
So. It says Paradox Development Studio invites you to build your ideal society in the tumultuous of the exciting and transformative 19th century. Balance the competing interests in your society and earn your place in the sun in Victoria 3, one of the most anticipated games in Paradox's history. I mean, if the number of memes about Vicky 3 are true.
I would say it's probably the most anticipated game in Paradox history.
Yeah, and the only videos using Vicky 3 are ours.
There we go.
All right. Hell yeah.
Thanks, Paradox.
Yeah.
Do you have a teaser, speaking of Martin, whose birthday is today, actually. So happy birthday, Martin.
Well, happy birthday, yeah.
So I haven't seen this yet because I can't open Twitter right now for whatever reason. It just times out.
That is a blessing.
Denmark, Finland.
I actually took a whole week off from Twitter. It was wonderful.
Goodness. Twitter is it's just all Americans talking about bloody Columbus Day. I mean, like, it used to be back in the good old days. No offense to the Americans, right? Back in the good old days, you know, Americans just had a low-level annoyance, and we'd all deal with it, and it was all happy, right? And then we all accepted, the rest of the world, that 4th of July was the day when Americans got all their irritatingness out, right? And it's like, okay, batten down the hatches, the Americans are coming out, it's the 4th of July. Now we have to do bloody 4th of July and the months up to Columbus Day of, like, Americans talking about Columbus Day, endlessly shouting about Columbus Day. You got Americans waving Columbus
Indigenous
flags.
Day is now the counter Columbus Day.
Or you get like some like white American who says he's like 2/8 quarter Cherokee waving a flag. It's like, Americans, please. Keeps
I had somebody complain that I wasn't celebrating fucking Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's like, come on.
I don't think. I don't really know that there are. Yeah,
Columbus Day. We didn't even like get the day off school where I went to in Florida. Like, it was a bank holiday, but we still had school.
Yeah, I don't think I know anybody who, like, ever celebrate Columbus Day. It's kind of. Unless you're using it as like a reactionary talking point, I don't think anyone actually cares.
The rest of the world has to suffer the endless dialogue of Columbus Day. The rest of us have to suffer.
I mean, Columbus was an asshole. It's I think
but don't judge him by today's standards. We're not. We're judging him by his own standards, where he was fucking.
Also,
no, Lambert, don't turn into an American now.
Dick.
Well, no. Here's the other thing. I like categorically reject most arguments that are like, oh, well, it's fine that this person was a racist because everyone at the time was racist. That's a history written by the victors thing. That generally isn't true. There have always been dissenters. There have always been people who knew better. Empathy is not a recent invention. So yes, I will judge people by my standards and not by, the standards of the people who were writing the history books at the time. Not everybody at the time, because there were certainly people who were being discriminated against who didn't think it was cool.
I can't believe.
Even by his own standards, Columbus was a monster. If you really have to use the standards of the day, he's still a monster.
I can't believe I started discourse about Columbus
Day
by complaining about all these Americans starting discourse about
EU4 yet.
Right. Let's talk about the teaser. I mean, that we were talking about, which is about diplomacy, I guess.
So diplomatically, really... Columbus was an asshole.
Columbus is before Vicky 3's time.
Yeah.
So save it for EU4.
We'll get into another round of Columbus discourse when we get
please.
to EU4.
Keep to 4th of July. Come on.
I didn't particularly new or shocking about this screenshot.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
No. Württemberg doesn't particularly like Prussia. They do particularly like Austria.
Yeah.
In other news, water is wet and the sky is... it's not blue, actually. It's pretty grey at the moment.
Yeah,
the sky is up.
Pretty grey. The sky is full of atmosphere.
But yeah, I mean, anyone who played Vicky 2 knew that Württemberg isn't exactly Prussia's best friend.
Yeah.
Until Prussia becomes North German Confederation.
Yeah.
Infamy is
like Austria.
Infamy is a a word now that they give you a text description of what your infamy is.
I feel like that's fairly going to be normalized, right? Because you've got numbers behind everything. Thinking of things like your standard of living. If you're between 5 and 10, you're struggling. If your infamy is between 5 and 10, you're reputable. That's basically what I'm saying from this.
Probably.
Yeah. There's nothing particularly interesting. Maybe there'll be a big splash in the dev diary, but I mean, I scoured that screenshot looking for the hidden things in the comments.
The only thing I've seen is really people kind of not liking the way that paper map looks.
I don't mind it too much.
Well, Rose, what if I wanted to learn the word for infamy in like Turkish? What might I be able to do?
You'd scheme. You'd go find a Turkish person and you'd start a scheme to learn their language. And if you were really good at learning, you'd have a much better chance. But if you don't, it may take you 16 years with a 36% chance to learn their language.
Sounds about right. Crusader Kings 3.
We got a dev the Duolingo of the late medieval period.
Yeah. If you get the little green bird in your court, it gives you like a plus 15%. We're learning we got to see how we're going to learn new languages, which I think it said it halves the cultural
malice. Yeah.
Malice for cultures that don't share a similar language. If you have vassals, if you're Persian and you have vassals who are Turkish and you learn Turkish, then whatever the culture malice is that you suffer to opinion will be cut in half, which is pretty cool. I
do like how they pointed out down here. When we first talked about languages, we had some people rightfully point out that decreasing the chance of success, the more languages you know, isn't very logical.
No,
considering I knew someone in high school that knew 5 languages. The
more languages you know, the easier it is to learn languages.
Yeah, learning German made it way easier for me to learn like Swedish and Norwegian.
It doesn't even need to be a similar or a related language. Knowing if you are English and you know how to speak French, then learning Turkish will be easier for you because you've already programmed your brain to be able to think not all languages are the same.
Right. It breaks down. It breaks down the like preset ideas you have about grammar and stuff.
As someone who knew some German and went to Korea, every time I tried to speak Korean at the beginning, I spoke German. Because I had both foreign languages in the same spot in my head.
That can happen for sure. Every once in a while, I'm trying to think how to say something in Norwegian, and I'll come up with the German way first. Yeah.
And
I only have English, and learning Swedish
2 years ago, I had the same problem, just the opposite.
Yeah.
I was saying "Kamsamnida" when I went and bought a coffee. I'm a Dankeschön. Kamsamnida.
This gives me the opportunity to beat my disability drum. It's like it should be a trait for dyslexia because some people have aptitude for language. I would love dyslexia to be included in the game because
I think there was an event chain. There was an event chain in Crusader Kings 2, I think, that was related to dyslexia with educating children.
Yeah.
But it wasn't an actual trait. That would be really interesting to include for sure.
I would love that.
What do y'all think about the foreign language limit?
I don't.
Wait, how many is the limit? Why is there a limit?
Current foreign language limit. 1
yeah,
out of 2.
well, it's like every 5 points of learning you get one, and you can get additional slots from one of the perk trees. I'm trying to figure out what it was, but I can't find it.
I think if you.
And your native language does not count in that.
Open-minded and smooth operator. Yeah, I don't think it makes a lot of sense role-playing wise. I can kind of see why they would include it.
Well, if you're born in a multilingual area to parents that have other languages as well, right?
Right.
You could very easily get over 3. So, having your native and 2 foreign languages very, very easily, very naturally, and then I'm unable to learn the mother tongue of my mother because I have reached my artificial limit.
Yeah.
No, not feeling that. Not feeling that.
Yeah.
It should be less about artificial limits and more about you're not going to be able to learn 10 languages because getting the ability to get those 10 languages around you to learn from is going to be very difficult and very time consuming. And yeah, you probably could get it towards the end of the game if you have a long lifetime, but it's going to be fairly difficult. It's also you're going to slow down learning languages as you get older, right?
As Hercules is pointing in chat, it's not a hard cap. If your cap is 3 languages, you can learn 5. But it said in here somewhere something about you get stress or you forget a language or there's a consequence.
I mean, learning one's giving me stress. Like, that's just silly.
No, I quite like it because, as far as I'm aware, like I'm a least language apt person. I can barely do English, but like, as far as I'm aware, you get rusty with languages over time, right? That's a thing that happens unless you keep up to date with things. You can get very, very, very rusty. Languages, unless you learn from childhood, I guess. But
do you know what it reminds me of? You could have more than like say 3 languages, but you have a chance for stress. It reminds me of you having too many lovers in CK2, and you get that question: do I want to give up Beatrice or Eunice, or do I keep them both?
Yeah, it does say if you go over your limit, you'll start getting events about feeling overwhelmed, giving you the choice between forgetting a language or gaining stress. I don't think forgetting a language makes sense, really, roleplay. I mean, I do if I don't practice. Like, when I was taking German in college, I could hold a conversation in German pretty well. I don't think I could still do that without, like, practicing for a while. So I don't know about the idea of forgetting a language. Because it's not like I would just completely forget how to use it. It's like I'm out of practice.
Yeah.
And then all of the people in your country that speak that language that you've just suddenly miraculously forgot know instantly that you've forgotten that language and instantly like you.
Yeah, it's not like I would have to start over again from the beginning. Like der die das die, like it's like I know the basics, but I don't know. Maybe.
And if you went to Germany and you spent a few weeks there, you'd probably pick back up to that same level.
Exactly. So,
well, the only language I took in school, I got a U in. So
I didn't even know that was a mark you could get.
Yeah, it was my Welsh paper. I didn't know a word of Welsh after years of education, thanks to severe dyslexia. U was unmarked. I couldn't answer any of the questions. There was only one question I answered in that exam, right? And it was framed like this, right? So you went into a shop and there was loads of signs on the walls, and then it had some examples of the signs, and it was all in Welsh, and they had grammatical errors in it, right? And the question asked, what is the first complaint you'd make to the shopkeeper? And I wrote down, all the signs are in fucking Welsh and I can't read them. That was the only answer I gave in that exam, and I got a U.
No, I would have given you a mark for that because it is required by law to have it in at least both languages, right?
Exactly. It's a bilingual country.
We have Therion in chat. Father Laura's saying they invented you as in useless just for you.
I just I'm useless at languages.
And then they apologize because that was sort of rude.
It's fine. It's fine. I'm actually the most dyslexic man in Wales, according to the Welsh Dyslexia Centre. So, top
really?
Wow. Yeah.
I suppose that's why you went.
How do they measure that?
That is a good point. Hercules is saying, what I want to know is about religious languages such as Hebrew for Jewish or Pali for Buddhists.
Yeah, that's an interesting
I've just become a priest. Suddenly I know Latin.
Latin would be great, actually. You've said,
I mean, if you're a Catholic, you would have to. If you're a Catholic priest, you would have to speak Latin in this time period, I think.
Yeah, not anymore, but right? Back then, definitely.
Yeah,
that's great.
Because everything was written in Latin.
I really hope they do include Latin, because that would be a great little flavor thing, right?
Oh, it's in there. Latin is definitely in there. Yeah, it's I'm a little bit less like, I don't know. I don't know what else you would call it, but like East Slavic was never like a thing that like somebody was like, oh yeah, I speak East Slavic. Like that's a distinction that linguists came up with later.
Yeah.
So it seems a little weird to me to have people talking about, you can't speak a word of East Slavic, like from a role playing context. I guess I just don't know what else you would call it.
The thing is, all of the different countries that were in East Slavia or that spoke that language would have each called that language their own country's language, right? So, like, if you just took today's modern borders and just plonked them in the fucking medieval world, ignoring all the context and stuff, the language of Australia, the main language of Australia, is English. They would call that Australian. Whereas England, main language English, they would call it English. America would call it American, even though it's the same language. You get it wrong sometimes, but let's put that by the way. But that's kind of where I'm thinking of it with this East Slavic. Like Poland would call it Polish, and Lithuania would call. Obviously, it's different. They're using different languages, they would call it their own name.
Yeah. Well, like linguistics wasn't even like the field of linguistics didn't even come along until like the 1800s anyway.
If they had a name for it at all,
right? It might just be this is just how we talk, and then the people over there talk kind of differently. But
he says words funny. Let's hate him. He doesn't put a U in harbour. Let's hate him. These kind of things. It's completely natural.
Justified. Yeah, I think it's interesting that they're. I mean, as somebody who's interested in linguistics, I think it's interesting that they're adding this as a mechanic. I might mod it to make it a little bit more realistic, as I often do, just for my own uses. But yeah.
Add dyslexia. Come on.
Yeah.
The only time we get to bang the drum.
Yeah. Luckily, you don't need to be able to read well to appreciate the new monuments that they're adding to U4.
That's because you just have to go and conquer them and steal them for your own country.
Exactly.
That's true.
You don't need to read to do that.
Funny how Sweden has none.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
What's the one in Norway?
Norway's the old stave temple. I forget the name of it, but it's a beautiful temple.
Okay.
I forget the name of it exactly, but it's a beautiful wooden.
It looks like it's in like Telemark, maybe. I don't remember what province that is. It's the one next to Oslo.
Yeah.
Maybe Stavang I'm not sure.
You can see
southern Norway. Those are those Southrons. They're basically basically Danes right now. I've only been to the true north.
But London's already there. That's the Tower of London.
Was it there this time?
Yeah, it's already in. Oh, yeah.
When did that get built?
Yeah, it was famously, all the Tudors ended up being in the Tower of London, right? I know the Tudors were way after. Sorry, U4. Sorry, I'm in Secret Free Brain still.
William the Conqueror.
Yeah.
I mean, he only built the White Tower, but yeah.
William the Bastard.
There's a few ones I'm really.
By the time he built it, he was the conqueror.
Still a bastard.
There's a lot that aren't on the list.
Doesn't mean he was not a conqueror.
It doesn't mean he wasn't a bastard.
What were you to say, Lars?
There's a lot not on the list, which I'm quite interested in. I'm interested in what's going to be in Amsterdam, for example, which I imagine is going to be like
that's the province of Holland, I think.
Holland, but Amsterdam,
Yeah, I'm curious if are you going to have to build? Well, I guess they could represent that by starting it out as level 0 or whatever.
That's what I was thinking. You start with
Groovy's parting gift.
Yeah, they've got the Inca Road.
A bit of context to that. The Ludum Dare was recently on, and Groogy's game project was all about building Dutch dikes.
Mm-hmm.
It's just pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty fun actually. I played a little bit of it. Very hard. Kept running out of population and drowning. Good fun though.
Yeah, they're only Dutch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a good ending.
So they're adding the Inca Road system. It's kind of interesting how they've implemented this, because it only exists in one province, but it sounds like you also need to be a united Indian empire to use it.
Yeah. Well, this has happened before with, for example, the Great Wall of China is a one province thing, right? So
And also, interestingly, it doesn't give you move speed. It just gives you trade efficiency and reinforced speed, which I guess might be because they don't have a way to increase move speed only in a specific area. Like, it wouldn't make sense if we built the Andean road network and then our armies move faster in China or whatever. So that might be why they are handling it this way.
Yeah.
But,
I think their values are set to be tweaked and changed, mate.
It's funny how they go on about we have the Incan road system, brainstormed how it could be we could do it without being attached to only one province. Like, just make roads be a thing.
Roads would be cool.
Anbanar figured out how to do it. So
well before Anbanar, there's been mods that have added roads as a building that would increase movement speed, going back several years now. Like, just make it a bloody building.
That's the important thing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's better than Anbanar, but just
yeah. Well, I'm just waiting for E5 at this point.
Yeah, that's where
yeah.
This is cool. I don't care.
Florence is finally getting something, which is great because they're one of the most important cities in this entire time period, so they should definitely get a monument.
Yeah.
There's rock-hewn churches of Lobelia, I want to say.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with the...
No, same. I know they're dug into the ground, and that's all I know.
Yeah.
So you get a sort of pit, and there's a church, and like sort of tower. That's as much as I know about them, sadly. A little bit too ignorant about them. I know them basically from like shitty 50s action architecture things, Basically, that's what I know them from. The sort of movies where it's like, we're going to reclaim the Ark of the Covenant, the stuff that inspired, like...
I think of, like, the Petra.
Yeah, Petra is, like... Yeah, it's very similar, right? Yeah. These are, like, they're dug into, like, basically a crater.
Yeah.
That's about it. That's as far as my knowledge goes.
There are a ton of monuments in India. Just an absolute ton compared to... It's the biggest concentration of them by far.
Yeah. India's already pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Could be interesting with all the stacking bonuses. I hope they don't overlap, because you do get ones like you have to be Hindi, or you have to be Buddhist, or you have to be...
That's the problem in Imperators one does as well. It's like, I've just conquered the Stonehenge. It's got the exact same bonus as this other monument that exists already that I also own. So this me taking Stonehenge means literally nothing.
Yeah, I quite like that though, because otherwise, by conquering loads of India as a European, you basically become exponentially powerful, right?
That's realistic then.
Yeah, I guess.
We were literally just talking about this in Victoria 3.
Yeah. But you get it from trades goods anyway, but you don't want to have these like massive bonuses that the stacking monuments give you.
Oh yeah, but you only get the bonus if you believe in the right gods, though. Because
exactly,
magic
that's a good thing. I think I quite like that.
I hate it so much.
No, I mean, that's historically accurate. The fairies will only come out of Stonehenge to fight for you in battle if you do the proper druidic rites.
What was Stonehenge's religion tied to?
Pagan.
Pagan.
Yeah.
Well, pagan's a big umbrella.
You also get it, I think, if you're British culture. I think that's something.
I'm gonna mod in the pre-Celtic, Brittonic, megalithic religion that we don't know anything about. Give it its own mechanics, just so you can properly observe stuff.
The religion of the Beaker people. It was Beakers.
Exactly.
Out.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
I hate it. I really hate it.
There's some the ones I'm looking forward to. I think obviously Amsterdam. I'm interested in what they do with Holland. I guess St. Petersburg is getting one finally, which is great.
Oh yeah.
Before it was like just Moscow, and then you moved your capital to St. Petersburg, and you felt it was lesser because it didn't have a cool monument you could build in it. Which is
this
cool.
a monument that will be able to be built? It's not there from the start of the game.
I assume so. I assume it's like something like a White Palace or something, or maybe the canals. I don't know. Anything that could be in St. Petersburg, because the Russians built a shit ton.
There does seem to be different colors for them. Like they're not just all the same green. So I imagine it is a case of, the one in Tunis already exists because that's bright green, but the one in Berlin doesn't, because it's a darker green kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's very apparent with the one in the Ottomans, like the one in Constantinople versus the one in is that like Mercia, something like that? I don't know, the one in like southern Anatolia, north of Rhodes.
Was Berlin even?
Berlin, it wouldn't have been built because that's the.
Wasn't Berlin just like a forest in 1444?
Yeah,
it was still the capital of Brandenburg and Elector, so no.
Yeah,
but also yes.
I think the monument itself, though, is the arch. I forget the name of.
Okay.
The Arc de Triomphe.
Arc de Triomphe.
Arc de Triomphe.
Yeah.
If you look at the map and you look over in Asia, most of them are in China. There's a few in Japan. There's one in Korea, which looks to be about Seoul.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think what monument it would be. I mean, there's possibly the Palace, Gyeongbokgung.
Yeah.
There we go.
There's a statue of Sejong the Great, but I think that's newer. He is the one who ordered Hangul to be created.
Oh.
I would imagine, because it's like, that sounds Christian to me.
I forgot the name of a big, ancient university in Seoul too. It could be it.
That's the thing. Universities, because the one in Morocco, that'll be the university, right?
Morocco.
Wait, no, isn't it the university is in Fez, which is a bit more north than that?
There's a new one in Japan. It's very hard to see, but I just zoomed in, and it's like right around what prefecture is
Look,
that?
if it isn't Shimazu, I'm not interested.
It's not Shimazu. It's I think it looks like it's roughly around Kobe or Osaka, maybe.
No, it's a little bit. It's a little bit west of Osaka.
Osaka has the castle, which has been
it's probably okay. That must be Himeji Castle.
Okay.
So the new one is actually the one that's further.
I've been to Osaka Castle. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one that's in like Kanto is the new one.
Yeah, I think that makes sense because you want to move your capital to Kanto to feel good, right? I mean,
it's interesting to know what the one in bloody Oirat is.
Yeah, I know.
Well, that's in
the Great Tent.
What's interesting is if you look at the U.S., there's one by Chesapeake Bay too.
Ooh.
I like the mouth of it. Not the mouth of it, the head.
Chesapeake Bay. Oh yeah.
Is that's not Boston, one. Is it?
No, Boston's much farther. Boston's if you look farther up the coastline, there's like a hook. Boston's up there.
Yeah.
Do you think it'd be something
that would be where like Baltimore is, and
it could be something post-colonial that you can only build if you.
It is that darker green.
Settle there as a certain character.
Wait,
yeah.
Where is that actually?
Culture.
Where is that province? That what's it called? It's not something to do with the American Revolution or something, is it? Because that'd be cool. You build a Liberty Bell or something. I don't know.
It's hard to tell without really zooming in, but it's close to where I guess Washington D.C. / Baltimore.
Yeah, it actually could be. It could be Washington D.C.
Yeah, there's the Naval Academy, but you would think West Point would also be on there if they're putting the Naval Academy.
It's White House. Could be the White House, right?
Yeah,
it's closer to.
It won't be the White House until after 1812.
Well, that's still within the time period, I guess. But yeah.
It could be something. This monument can only be built after 1812.
You know, if it is something post-colonial, that's really interesting because that would be the first American monument that is a post-colonial monument. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Could be. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is really interesting.
It has to be Washington D.C. I'm looking at the map of where it is. It has to be like the White House or something.
Yeah.
I managed to zoom in.
It's the I don't know, what's that big stick monument? I forgot what it's called now.
The Washington Monument.
Washington Monument. Yeah.
No, that's the Washington Monument.
Yeah, the Washington Monument.
The one that Spider-Man broke into.
Yeah.
And then out there
famous event in
West,
American history.
It's for Vietnamese
Spider-Man.
War Memorial.
It's the only reason I care about that monument. Let's be honest. There's no bearing on me. Spider-Man broke
Michigan has to be there's Indian mounds. Is what they were called. At least when I was growing up, I lived by one down in Florida.
The Pueblo stuff too, which is pretty.
Yeah, there's the Pueblos, and Cahokia is the one that's like in the Midwest. I don't know what the one down by like San Antonio is. I'm not sure.
And then there's one
the Washington Monument that was
Canada.
In the 1840s.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that one would be either.
It'd be like a Spanish cathedral or something.
There's one way up on Hudson Bay. I have no idea what that would be.
That's an old one. That's I've forgotten the name of the monument now. It's the Stones.
Okay.
Yeah, the
Stonehenge 2.
Stonehenge 2. Yeah, Electric Boogaloo.
Revenge of the Megalithics.
Yeah. I forgot the name of it. I recognize it from the Canadian Winter Olympics or whatever it made it a thing.
Oh, okay.
Like, what the hell is that? I was like, it's actually had a cool history. Anyway, built out of. It's amazing that it could actually be built because they're fucking massive stones, and there it's like so barren. So, pretty impressive.
Yeah.
New ones of China, porcelain tower and stuff, I believe.
Most likely.
There's some that have
you
been
know
listed.
what we have? We talking about the Naval Academy here, and how they have a tomb of John Paul Jones, which is pretty cool. But I mean, if you're going to go to an academy to become an officer,
that's really weird that they would have a monument to the bassist from Led Zeppelin so many years before he was born.
Maybe the Alamo, maybe down there in Texas.
Yeah,
the
Alamo.
Academies.
That's 1820 something, right?
When was
it? 1830 something.
That's when the war happened, but when was the Alamo built?
But it's just a random fuck off fortress that means nothing.
The Alamo was
until it became famous.
In 1744.
Right, but it's not a famous fucking monument until you have this whole mythology around it.
Yeah.
That's not a monument. It's like a weak fortress.
Well, speaking of naval academies, Hearts of Iron 4. Father Loris, can you tell us a little bit about what's going on with officer corps stuff?
Can do. Although I have lost the dev diary for those watching on stream. I must have closed the tab like an idiot. Give me a moment. Yes, there we are. So, we have got basically things rolling into the new officer corps stuff. A bit more detail on that. People gaining experience. And things have been narrowed down a little bit more. If I'm honest, it's not a huge amount of information in this dev diary, but it adds.
I think it's just a recap, isn't it?
Yeah, essentially, and a few little tweaks and clarifications about the system. Basically, advisors rolled into it, which I think we've talked about it before. They build up experience, and now the rankings for those advisors are going to be a lot more important. For example, if you're an expert at, I don't know, strategic bombing, for example, if you put Bomber Harris in charge or something, and he's like, you can rank up and become better at doing war crimes. So pretty good. But in style,
I'm not sure that I like the fact that like anybody can rank up to genius eventually. Because I think that some of these people that you can pick they weren't geniuses, and they weren't ever going to be geniuses. in their respective fields.
Yeah, I hope it takes a long while, because famously you can recruit Himmler as Germany, and he is shit. He is the worst general, which is historical, of course.
Right.
But I imagine if you ever wanted to put Himmler in charge, you'd be shit by the end of a war. Anyway, so
right, like some people are just like, no matter how much they fight, they're just still gonna be bad.
Yeah, you just need a bit more practice.
But
practice makes perfect.
Practice
makes genius. We've just gone over this.
I hope it's slow. I hope it is a slow rank. I don't mind people gaining experience, because obviously, I don't know, you put someone in charge, like
See, we just
what if there's a modifier like there's in Stellaris where they just stop getting experience? They get that trait.
We just need a full star system like in Football Manager where everyone has a hidden potential score, which is how good of a general they can possibly become, and then you have to send scouts out to find young new generals. Okay, this is getting very complicated.
Yeah. I think the easiest way would just have a trait that can pop up, whatever is stubborn or something that it is in Stellaris, and they get experience at like 5%, 10% the rate.
Why not? I don't mind. So as long as it's scaled well, I think it's too bad.
Himmler starts with that trait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the more important, interesting stuff is overhaul of, well, not an overhaul, but a mass improvement of the AI. Now, the AI is pretty good as far as AI goes in Hearts-of-Iron, in my opinion, but obviously the more you play the game, you notice that, the AI's done something stupid again, what are they playing at? So, lots of improvements being made, but most importantly, it's opening it up to modders. They've going to introduce some more tools that modders can play with to improve the AI their side, so hopefully we can get some AI improvement mods going, which is pretty good. Putting out to the community is always a good idea, in my book.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think the most interesting one for me is the AI will focus less on the ridiculous naval missions, which are going to basically, everyone has the problem with it. France lands an army on the coasts of Hamburg or something, and then starves to death and dies, and they'll keep doing stupid missions like that that are doomed to fail. But now we're going to focus on big Normandy beach style landings, invasion of Italy style things, and we're actually going to build up troops. For example, in the dev diary, there's a heat map which shows the locations of American troops. So a lot of them are fighting in Alexandria and Greece, supporting war everywhere. But there's a huge conflicts in Britain ready to do what's it called now? What was the operation name? Overlord.
Yeah.
Operation Overlord.
So they'll actually stage their troops in Allied territory instead of being like, all right, time for D-Day.
Yeah.
Everybody get on a boat in Maryland.
That's right, yeah.
Go straight to Germany. They'll never see us coming. Yeah, so that's good. Yeah.
Yep. Which is pretty cool, and hopefully also for AI, especially America, like shipping troops just around the world randomly and losing half their...
Or sending them back halfway.
Sending them back halfway, it happens all the time. It's like, I leave for Maryland to go, going back. I didn't actually want to go to Essex.
I forgot my good...
I need more coffee. I ran out of coffee halfway through.
I mean,
exactly.
Yeah.
You know what? I just decided I don't really want to go to war.
Well, do you know what? You know what you really need coffee for? If you're gonna sit in and do a siege.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, there's not much in my heart, so and diary. That's pretty much about it. Yeah. I will say though, it'll be interesting to see in game. I think a lot of these things. We need the hands-on to work out if this is good improvement. But if it's shit, the community can fix it, after all.
So we finally got a video on the much anticipated Siege rework for Total War Warhammer 3. And Lambert, as somebody who has frequently spoken about how much you hate sieges in Warhammer 2, do you feel like they are fixing it from what we've seen?
The fixing is a good way of putting it. Fixed wouldn't be. Because I don't know about you, but if you watch the video that they put out about the sieges, I saw some Zinch, what are they called? Horrors pulling wooden ladders out of their asses. Which I mean, the fact that they even put that in the trailer, like a trailer is supposed to be all like, look at how awesome our shit is, get hype, and then you show me a fucking demon pulling a wooden ladder out of its ass. I'm sorry, I lost me completely.
I appreciate them doing that because it's expectation management, right? Because they're not getting rid of ladders, and
that's. I
guess it makes more sense for a demon to pull a ladder out of their ass than a human.
Made of wood? No. It's a siege demon. It should climb the wall or float up to the wall or just.
I agree with you. It would be much cooler.
Literally teleporting onto the wall would be less law breaking.
I tell you what, we should just do like stylized ladders, so there's like a weird fleshy ladder, or something, like says.
Well, no, they need to should be able to do the same thing as they have in Shogun, where they put a hook up and they climb the wall.
Yeah,
Skaven should have that.
Yeah, and then demons should shoot their tongue up onto the wall and then pull themselves up with their tongue.
Just anything other than like I'd prefer them to have ladders as something you need to carry, because just them like walking up to the wall and then inventing ladders, I hate it.
They're summoning them from the realm of chaos.
It's made of wood.
They're using the wind of ladders. You don't remember that? The magical wind of ladders?
Oh god. So bad.
No, I mean it looks overall pacing wise, it looks like a pretty big improvement where you're actually gonna have fighting through the streets. Yeah. They're adding deployable barricades, which is pretty cool.
Deployable towers, pretty good.
Yeah,
I'm worried that the AI is going to shit the bed hard.
That's what I'm worried about. I think the AI...
Because the AI is either going to... I can see two scenarios happening. The AI is going to be like, okay, we need to defend all of the different points. So I'm either not going to put enough on the walls themselves, or I'm going to give up the walls too easily, or I'm going to have all of the units that I need to be on the walls way behind the lines holding these choke points that I can completely bypass, because at least on this siege map that we can see here, the amount of different ways that you can go around the city, you like, oh no, they're holding those bridges and the high ground with their handgunners. All right, won't go that way.
Yeah.
But then you have to go through this choke point. Well, then I'll go through the other place. Like, unless you have 40 unit battles as the standard, this map ain't working.
Yeah. Well, and part of why I agree with you that I don't really like how ladders work in Warhammer is, and part of why I'm a little bit cautious about how they seem to be describing these siege battles is that, like, yes, I like having the option to fall back into the city and create secondary defensive lines if I need to, but I don't feel like the outer walls should be a speed bump. I don't feel like it should be something where it's like assumed, oh, well, eventually they're going to get over the walls, they're going to have to fall back. It's like, well, no, because if I do a good job of defending the walls, the battle should just end at the walls.
Yeah. I don't think I think they made walls a bit more powerful now anyway, because the towers have got a longer capture radius. So
I guess
the towers are still probably going to have infinite range.
Yeah,
it's going to piss everyone off.
But that's the other thing too. Like the big thing about fighting in towns is not so much for barricades and stuff, but having towers inside the towns is such a huge boon.
That'll be helpful.
The thing I keep saying is that the best sieges are in Total War, Thrones of Britannia. And that is because the siege maps themselves are really cool. They have verticality, they have different layers.
Yeah.
This ain't that.
No,
they're like, oh, people said they like verticality so that they can, use their archers to shoot down and be completely invulnerable. So we'll just put some random fuck off bridges in the middle of the map.
I love that though. I think
having that is not terrible, right? But who in their right mind is going to come down the center street there? 0 people. If the enemy has got a bunch of archers or handgunners or whatever, no one's going down that street. Well, it's completely making that entire mechanic completely useless.
I tell you who's dumb enough to go down that main street, the AI.
Yes, yeah, fair enough. But if you think of it as well, right, what's so great about the Thrones of Britannia sieges is the look of the maps, the layering of the maps, and looking at this map, I mean, if you scroll down so people can see the actual map as well, would be nice. Yeah. What stands out to you the most on this map? Because for me, it's how boringly symmetrical and it all is.
I think that's probably just unique for Cafe. I was
doubtful. Very much doubt it, considering literally all of the siege maps in every Warhammer game so far has been this same style of very boring, very bland geometric shapes with buildings in very specific places to make lanes. It doesn't look like a natural city. It looks shit.
Well, figures for cafe. I think it suits cafe, and it probably will suit. Be sort of symmetrical city just suits. The Tomb Kings and stuff. I imagine when you come to a Skaven city, it's going to look like
the same.
I know. I reckon it's going to be a bit more chaotic.
It won't. We'll it'll have different graphics.
I'd hope so.
Different models, but the layouts are going to be identical.
I hope not.
Carry on pointing out in chat. Can't make the design too original. The AI would break even harder.
That's the argument that they made for making the sieges shit in the first place. It was a terrible idea then. It was a terrible decision then, and it's the same now.
If your AI can't run this, why is it in the game?
Yeah, I think it just generally improve its AI would be nice.
But that's the problem that Total War has had the entire time. Something isn't perfect. Let's get rid of it. Naval battles, they're not perfect. Let's get rid of it instead of fixing it. And it's the same with so many mechanics, and it's so disappointing. These games aren't innovating. They're going backwards. They're removing things, and I hate that.
Yeah,
it's so disappointing.
I'm pretty. Well, the only thing I'm skeptical about is if the AI can manage it. But I think I'm quite optimistic about the structure of the maps. Cool.
Yeah, I don't have that much of a problem with the layout. I don't think, as long as they are different. We'll have to see.
Yeah, exactly.
If it is literally the same layout for every faction, I would be pretty irritated.
Yeah, if it's the same layout with different skins, I'd not be particularly happy.
Yeah,
there is a modded map for Total War Warhammer 2 for Castle Drakenhof, and it is absolutely fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
It is amazing.
Well, you gotta
have the map, just the profile of it is so different to literally anything that you can see in the vanilla game.
Well, and I know what you're talking about because Thrones of Britannia and Attila would both have these maps where it's like you'd break through the outer settlement, you'd fight through the streets, and then there would be like a hall or something that's like up on a huge steep hill.
Yeah.
And it's like vampires, you gotta have that for vampires. You gotta make me fight up a giant hill. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
I think they did a good job with the map design when it came to like the Empire Gates, and I know that's the direction that we're going to go with for Warhammer 3.
I really hope they fix the gate.
Yeah, I hope they fix the gates too, because it's a bit buggy as fuck. But I think that's the sort of gameplay we're going to see with the Great Bastion, for example.
So what I'm mostly looking forward to from this specifically is the fact that they've made it possible to have docking, let's call it, on walls that aren't the outer wall. Like on the bridges, they say, "Oh, you can dock here," and then on the different vertical bits, "Oh, you can dock here." That was the biggest problem for modded maps, is that wasn't possible. So I'm sorry. Yeah, this is a slight improvement, but you're improving from a fucking F rank to like a D rank. Whereas what I'm expecting to see is the modded maps on what's the mod called? Grand Campaign Custom Maps GCCM. I'm expecting that to go from an A to an S.
Yeah.
That's what I'm excited about, not your D tier maps that you're making for the game.
Yeah, but the problem with that mod, right, is AI sometimes is a bit shit on those maps. But that's a problem that's endemic to the.
Yeah, that's not the modder's fault, though, is it?
Exactly.
Yeah, they're no more complex than the previous maps that the historical titles have had. Like, I don't know what it is about the Warhammer AI that they're just like, oh yeah, we had an AI that wasn't absolutely amazing, but it was competent enough. But then we made it Warhammer, and everyone turned brain dead when it comes to sieges. How did that happen? Now they learned magic, so they're shit at everything else.
One thing I'm quite looking forward to, because with the minor settlements or settlements without walls, I guess it was just a normal field battle. We're adding small town settlements now, which is, I think, it's pretty interesting.
About time. Third game in the series.
Yeah.
It should have been fixed in an update in the first.
Yeah, I agree, but I'm glad we're finally getting them. Small little town fights, which is pretty good. No walls, but you can still build barricades in a tower and stuff. Pretty cool. quite like that sort of thing.
Rome 2 sieges are really good as well. And Attila's were amazing. Thrones of Britannia is the pinnacle. I still haven't played Three Kingdoms, so I can't comment on that.
Three Kingdoms
the sieges in Troy are actually they're not terrible.
I like them.
They're a shit better than Warhammer's.
I think
I don't know why it's just Warhammer that sucks.
I think one of the problems with Warhammer 2 is the wall mechanics is basically you can teleport up and down off the walls, whereas like Troy, you
fucking change it then, so that doesn't. Like, why? If that's causing such a problem, get rid of that, because that's fucking stupid as well.
Yeah, I know. I don't like that mechanic personally. It's getting stupid.
Like, I just don't understand why it is only the Warhammer franchise that has bad sieges. It boggles the mind.
Yeah, I'm optimistic this will make it better, though, at least. But then again, like I said, I'm a bit apprehensive about
optimism's a good thing, but I think we need to wrap ourselves up here.
Yeah,
I think we're all like, wait for Lambert's opinion because he wants the new sieges, so he's going to be positive about this. No.
One other small thing: siege defenders are going to build up more supplies that they can spend on towers and stuff.
Yeah.
The longer a settlement is under siege, so it's not just going to be purely a good thing to sit around and wait for sieges to tick anymore. Because you may cause attrition damage, but also they're going to have more defensive structures.
What do you mean wait around? Has anyone ever done that?
I do with some factions if they're going to be a pain in the ass.
You're gonna leave your army waiting for 8 turns or 10 turns or whatever.
Oh, I have. It's in the late game when I have other armies that are something else. Yeah.
I don't think it's ever been worth it for me, to be honest.
Yeah,
we should probably quickly cover the stuff I talked about in Cafe, or should we cover this next week?
I have a hard out in like 7 minutes.
Okay, we
should wrap up then.
But there's a Stellaris dev diary. We missed it. We're blind. We'll get it next
blind.
Week.
Just make sure it gets up on the wiki because that's how I find dev diary.
Yeah, the wiki is very behind. It's like the last one was like early September.
His wiki is pretty fucking behind as well.
Yeah, so we'll cover that next week. We'll cover the stuff that they talked about with Cafe next week too.
Rose, what have you been up to this week, and where can people find your stuff?
I've been playing some Stellaris. I've not been playing some Stellaris. I've been playing some Stardew. And that's been about it. Need to play some more Medieval Dynasty. I'm really looking forward to when CK3 Royal Court comes out, whenever that'll be.
Oh yeah.
But as to that, I just feel like I'm chilling. Like, I want to play some CK3, but I had the same problem, I guess, that y'all had with like EU4, CK2 before CK3 came out.
Oh, you got the Paradox.
Why would I play it without all the cool stuff that we're learning about in the dev diaries? So, yeah, and that's about it.
Well, Lambert, what about yourself?
I've been playing a lot of Old World recently. They just announced that it will be coming to Steam and it won't just be on Epic, which is great because I think that is the biggest reason why it has not become as popular as it otherwise would be.
Yeah.
But I've been having a lot of fun with the Carthage scenarios. Earlier today, I started the Rise of Rome scenario, which, as we all know, is historically Carthage came out on top in that one, so it should be a pretty easy scenario, right? It's hard. But yeah, I've been playing a lot of Old World and really enjoying it, and yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I got a copyright strike on a video that was supposed to have no copyright music, so the publishers just sent me a £100 Amazon gift card to say sorry. So I bought a fucking green screen with it.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
Oh, that's not too bad, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah. If they've got any other games that are copyright questionable, send them my way, yeah?
Loris, anything new going on in your world this week?
Yeah, doing a bit of drawing, revamping the website a little bit behind the scenes, making it a lot more optimized so it doesn't crash, get spiking viewers. Apart from that, been playing a little bit of CK2 actually. I played back the Elder Kings mod, which is pretty good. I actually played a bit more Skyrim because I don't know, getting old.
Surprising. Yeah.
That's about it really. Working on a little thing for Hearts of Iron Instagram, which will be airing tomorrow.
Nice.
So check that out tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, I'm still working on secret stuff, which I can't talk about yet. But I am probably going to be reviewing Age of Empires 4.
I'm so hyped.
4, right?
Yeah,
so, yeah, that'll be out.
Your secret stuff is still in the black hole. You just haven't pulled it out yet.
It is, yeah. I've got it attached to a rope that I'm holding onto right now, which is why I have to go, so it doesn't fall
you have
back.
to get to that floating fucking library to get it. Pull the strings of the cosmos or something.
True secret of quantum mechanics is love or something like that. Yeah. I do want to get back to streaming over this kind of like fall and winter though, when I have some time. I miss it actually, which is the right reason to stream, I think. Like if it's actually fun for you, that's
when
it's an obligation, it sucks.
Yeah.
That's what's happening to me. I'm so tired by the end of the day after chasing an 18-month around.
Yeah.
Some days I'm just like, I don't have the energy to be on stream. If I want to play a game, I don't want to talk to people. I'm feeling very antisocial.
It doesn't get easier when they're like up to 5. It gets worse. Just
but yeah, we'll be back. Remember, our new time is 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. British times. I think you guys switch over off of DST like a week before we do or something, but we'll be sure to figure that out.
Yeah, we'll sort out the
time change.
Time
for
I think it's October 31st in the UK. I don't know about
New York. For here in the US, it's November 7th.
Right.
We'll tweet it out anyway. So.
We'll be a week off.
Say all of the EU shares it, but yeah.
Yeah, the EU, it's the 31st of October.
Yeah, but the UK and then the
EU. You guys get to fall back and get an extra hour of
it's the best one round, right? We should, like I said when we pushed it forward, just keep this one. Get rid of the other one.
So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you
already
again.
have my spooky costume too.
Oh yeah.
The Rosebud has a spooky costume.
That's spooky.
Oh god.
Okay, we all have to be in costume for Halloween, right? That's the important.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Bye everybody.
Take care. It's all right.
And don't stop your recordings because we need to clap in.